Jimmy Evans, a prominent figure whose influence stretches across faith-based communities and public discourse, recently broke his long-standing silence on a subject that had been quietly bubbling beneath the surface, Joni Lamb. This revelation was not a casual aside, but a deliberate act that caught the attention of many. For months, whispers had circulated, growing louder as people speculated on what he might say. Finally, the curtain was lifted, and the implications were significant. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Jimmy's decision to address this topic wasn't impulsive. Known for his measured approach, he's someone who chooses his words like a carpenter selects nails, each one purposeful. In the lead-up to this moment, his silence had spoken volumes. For a man who often champions clarity and connection, the lack of commentary felt intentional, almost strategic. Whether it was to maintain dignity, avoid controversy, or simply wait for the right moment, the reasons were his alone. But when he finally chose to speak, it was as if a pressure valve had been released. What made the moment gripping was how unassuming Jimmy appeared at first. There he was, calm and composed, as though he was about to share an anecdote from a Sunday sermon. But as the topic turned to Joni Lamb, there was a noticeable shift. It wasn't dramatic, but it was palpable, a tightening of posture, a slight pause before the first sentence. It felt like watching someone step into a pool, testing the waters before taking the plunge. His words were steady, deliberate, and laced with just enough candor to hold the listener's attention without veering into melodrama. The subject of Joni Lamb carries its weight. Known for her work in faith-based broadcasting, Lamb is a towering figure in her own right. Her charisma and outspoken nature make her a magnetic presence, and she's not one to shy away from complex issues. With two such influential figures in the same orbit, it was inevitable that their paths would intertwine in ways that sparked curiosity. The question on everyone's mind was not just what Jimmy thought of her, but how he would frame the conversation. The answer, it turned out, was a mix of reverence and subtle critique. Jimmy's approach to the topic was, in a word, professional. He didn't dance around the issue, nor did he leap into it with reckless abandon. Instead, he chose a middle path, weaving personal observations with broader reflections. He acknowledged Joni's contributions with the respect they deserved, painting a picture of someone deeply committed to her mission. At the same time, he didn't shy away from pointing out moments where their perspectives diverged. It wasn't a clash of egos, but rather a nuanced look at two distinct visions existing within the same larger framework. One of the more intriguing aspects of his commentary was the subtle humor he injected. At one point, he recounted a story that painted both himself and Joni in human light. It involved a planning session where ideas were flying faster than anyone could keep up, and Joni, with her characteristic directness, suggested a solution so blunt it left the room in stunned silence. "I remember thinking," Jimmy said with a faint smile, "well, that's one way to solve it." The audience chuckled, but the story also underscored her determination and willingness to make tough calls, qualities Jimmy clearly admired even as he found them occasionally exasperating. The implications of Jimmy's remarks were far-reaching. In addressing Joni, he wasn't just talking about an individual. He was speaking to a broader audience, touching on themes of leadership, collaboration, and vision. His words suggested a desire for unity, even in the face of differing opinions. This was not about choosing sides, but about finding common ground. By framing the discussion in this way, Jimmy managed to navigate a potentially divisive topic with grace, emphasizing shared values over individual differences. The ripple effects of his commentary were immediate. Even without addressing the aftermath, it's clear that this moment resonated with many. For his followers, it was a reminder of why they admire him: his ability to balance honesty with compassion, critique with respect. For Joni's supporters, it was a validation of her significance and an acknowledgement of the impact she continues to have. And for those outside these circles, it was an intriguing glimpse into a world where influence is wielded not with a heavy hand, but with thoughtful words. What made the event truly engaging was Jimmy's demeanor throughout. There's something compelling about a person who doesn't rush to fill silences, who allows their words to land before moving on. It's a quality that speaks to confidence, not arrogance, and it was on full display here. Even as he addressed points of contention, there was no hint of hostility. Instead, there was a quiet assurance that invited the audience to lean in and listen. Jimmy Evans and Joni Lamb are both figures who command attention, not because they demand it, but because they earn it. Their influence stems from their ability to connect with people, to speak in ways that resonate. When Jimmy finally chose to speak about Joni, it felt like a bridge being built between two towers. The structure might not be complete, but the foundation is there, solid and promising. As the moment concluded, Jimmy left the audience with more than just his thoughts. He left them with questions to ponder, ideas to wrestle with, and perhaps most importantly, a renewed appreciation for dialogue. His words were a reminder that even in a world often divided by opinions, there's room for conversations that challenge, inspire, and unite. This was not just a statement, it was an event, one that underscored the power of words and the importance of timing. By breaking his silence, Jimmy Evans not only shed light on his perspective but also invited others to do the same. In the end, it wasn't about him or Joni. It was about the larger story they are both a part of, a story that continues to unfold with each passing day. As the dust began to settle after Jimmy Evans' long-awaited remarks, what lingered wasn't just the content of his words, but the way he delivered them. There was an understated power in his restraint, a kind of elegance that made his perspective feel less like a proclamation and more like an invitation to reflect. He didn't shout, didn't rush, and didn't lace his commentary with unnecessary drama. Instead, he allowed his audience to digest what he said at their own pace, offering insights that were as much about humanity as they were about leadership. The humor, subtle but effective, served as a bridge between heavy ideas and approachable dialogue. It lightened the mood without undermining the gravity of the topic. Whether recounting Joni's no-nonsense approach to problem-solving or his own moments of second-guessing, these anecdotes humanized both figures, pulling them down from lofty pedestals and placing them squarely in the realm of relatable experience. What truly stood out, however, was Jimmy's ability to turn a potentially divisive issue into a moment of collective introspection. His words served as a reminder of the value in pausing to listen before rushing to judgment. By speaking thoughtfully and deliberately, he set a tone that others could emulate, fostering an atmosphere of curiosity rather than conflict. In the end, Jimmy Evans didn't just break his silence, he created a space for understanding. It was a moment that will likely be remembered not just for what was said, but for how it made people feel. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.